Hi there, welcome to another episode of Canada's Movie and TV Hosers, show where we discuss lots of movies, trailers, pop culture, TV streaming, books, sometimes comic books or music. I'm your host, Gregory Barrett, and with me is my lovely wife, Christine.
Hi there.
If you're one of the very few people watching this, thank you very much. We appreciate you supporting our content, our channel here. And if you enjoy it, you can always give us the thumbs up. That would help us out. Leave a comment on anything that you want. And you can always subscribe. We post more content every week on this channel. So to break it down for you today, we are going to start with a couple pieces of news. And then we got lots of reviews to do. Last episode we did trailers and reviews. So we'll start off with the news right away. Oh, and this is our special guest star, Fluffy Kitty. I got her to calm down already. Last time, was she rambunctious last time?
Yeah, she wouldn't sit for the longest time, but she seems very tired out. She just had her TRATS.
Yeah, well, she's just happy being around us. So remember in our recent episode, we talked about Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?
Yes.
So I haven't read any articles on this.
Okay.
Except the only thing I looked up was on Rotten Tomatoes and it has a really low score. I think it's gone down even more.
I'm not surprised.
Okay. But I looked this up on boxofficemojo.com. That's the site where you get all the box office information.
Right.
So it only came out on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, well, it only came out on Wednesday here, but I'm going to double check it. And it says it has a budget so far. It says it has a worldwide box office of over 2 million.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is, so yeah, that's pretty good. It was only out here on Wednesday and it had 760,000. And this is on a movie that was the British independent film made for less than 100,000.
Oh, well, it's made some money then.
So this has made money. No matter how you look at it, this has made money. Now, it wasn't very good, as I put down in my review last episode. But even if these guys are, like the director, producer, writer, Ryers Frank Wakerfield, I don't know who that is, but even if this guy's a film student, and he came up with this novel idea, it got people talking, it got people to go see it, and they put it in theaters, then they expanded the release before it came out, they decided to put it on more screens, and this has made some money.
Well,
really, at the end of the day, that's all it comes down to.
I mean, they've got free advertising already. Everyone knows what Winnie the Pooh is, I guess.
Yeah.
I think it was a terrible idea, but...
I think it was a good idea. It was just carried out badly, but this is how you make money. And they definitely made money. If that got them a start, and then they'll get more experience, I'm sure they're laughing all the way to the bank. So good on those guys. What do you think about that?
I just think it looked like a terrible idea.
Okay. Christine wasn't into it. I saw it. I didn't care for it. Most people didn't.
Then again, lots of terrible ideas might make lots of money, but it doesn't mean it's a good idea in the first place.
No, not necessarily. Here, I'll look up what it is on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It's gone down to a 6% critic rating.
And it was 7% last.
It was like 8% before, and has a 54% audience score. Some people enjoy it, but I don't recommend watching this movie. If you haven't, I don't recommend it. But that's interesting. If you did see it, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Or if you just have other thoughts on Winnie the Pooh, maybe you think this was a bad idea, like Christine says.
Again, it does say, like, it doesn't... If it makes money, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good movie.
No, that's true. But if people go see it and it finds an audience, because people always show up for good horror movies.
Well, I think it was just intriguing to people, the concept. Now, of course, that's done. So anyone else that tries to follow in their footsteps is probably not gonna.
But if someone else wanted to do that and maybe do a good version of it, a horror movie of Winnie the Pooh,
Like
maybe it shows there's interest in it.
Right. I don't know if people will believe it.
Okay. Our next piece of news that came out a few days ago, I found out about this in the Hollywood Reporter. There was an article released. I'll tell you what the title of it. How much is too much Marvel and Star Wars? Disney rethinks franchise output. So as you know, they fired their old CEO, Bob Chapek.
The guy you love so much. You're a #1 fan
No
of him.
one really liked this guy. And they brought back the previous old CEO, Bob Iger, who had... He's the guy who acquired Lucasfilm and Star Wars for Disney and all the Marvel properties.
Seemed like a good idea.
This is the guy who led Disney to record heights. So the board brought him back for 2 years. So he's only got 2 years because he retired. I mean, let the guy enjoy his retirement. So according to the Hollywood Reporter, and I'm going to put this up on screen here, after years of Marvel and Star Wars movies and shows inundating big screens and small, so getting a lot of Disney Plus stuff, Disney is putting the brakes on the output of some of its biggest franchises and brands following Bob Iger's February 8th comments that the company needs to be better at curating franchise content that's extraordinarily expensive. Because it is really expensive to make these things.
Ugh.
Added Iger, we want the quality on the screen, but we have to look at what they cost. So they're using this as fiscal management is their reasoning, but really what they're doing is they're going to say, instead of pumping out all these Marvel movies and shows a year, we're going to go back to maybe just doing 2 Marvel movies and 1 show a year and make them really good, which is what they used to do.
Unfortunately, I think Star Wars is going to get axed because of this. And I'd much rather see Star Wars things than Marvel things. Well,
we are getting Star Wars things, except they've all been on Disney Plus. So they've been on the small screen. So what they're doing with Star Wars, according to this, is one thing Bob Iger wants to do is he wants to bring Star Wars back to the big screen. Because it's been 4 years since we had a Star Wars movie in the theaters.
Well, Solo wasn't very good.
No, but people are liking Solo more. There's a lot more love for Solo lately. Alden Ehrenreich, who played Solo, the young Solo, he's been in the news talking. It's a non-story, but he's been in the news talking, saying, yeah, he wants to come back and be in Star Wars more. That's a non-story. Actor wants to be in a big movie and get paid millions of dollars. Of course they want to.
What about the animated stuff? That can't be as expensive.
Animation takes forever.
Oh. Well, hopefully we'll get... I'd much rather Star Wars content than any new Marvel content. Now, you're the opposite of me.
I like both.
Yeah, you really like Marvel stuff.
We just started with Ant-Man and the Wasp. We started Phase 5. So they ended Phase 4, and people didn't like it. It was very hit and miss. It had some hits, but overall people were underwhelmed and was a lot of lackluster productions, whether it be on Disney Plus or the movies. So Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania is the start of Phase 5. I'll continue on this article. The directive to rein in costs and output arrives as Disney prepares to release Ant-Man's Marvel and the Wasp Quantumania on February 17th, so that's already came out. And as The Mandalorian Season 3 awaits its March 1st Disney Plus debut, Marvel is Disney's most important supplier of product, and they've been providing the most, because they were directed to put in as much, they were directed to not put out quality, but quantity. And I think that's because of Bob Chapek and his upper management that he put in place, which I believe Bob Iger is getting rid of now.
Producing too many Bobs. Just too many old white guys.
Yeah. Well, under Bob, we talked about before, previously at Disney, under Bob Iger, he got rid of all that and he had the studio heads. These are the creative people like Kevin Feige, Kathleen Kennedy at Lucasfilm, the head of Pixar, the head of Disney Studios. They answered directly to Bob Iger, to the CEO.
Right.
What Bob Chapek did was he came in and started running it like any other business. He brought in a bunch of his accountant and finance and business friends and put in several layers of management between those studio heads and the CEO, and that's why we end up getting way more quantity because they wanted it for Disney Plus, and we also got lower quality. Got like all those 6-episode shows which were god awful. People didn't like that. Right. And a lot of lackluster stuff. Continuing on here, Marvel is the subsidiary of the highest output, and under Iger's directive, it could feel cuts the soonest. There is going to be a level of rigor on Marvel and across the entire company, one company insider says. Numbers matter now, and costs are going to be outlined and enforced. So instead of producing 5-6 things at a time from Marvel Studios, they're going to produce 2 or 3 and make them better. Okay, because then you get your best people working on them instead of having to hire more and more people, and then you have less oversight by the executive producers like Kevin Feige and his lieutenants. So then we can get back to having better quality of stuff. Right. What do you think about this?
Well, it's just frustrating. Like, basically what happened at our work was the same. One old white guy leaves and you bring in another old white guy from retirement. Maybe they need some fresh looks at this stuff, and they really need someone who can look at this stuff objectively and say there's something wrong with this and we need to fix it. And that's still been a problem under the previous guy too. We got some really terrible Marvel movies. I don't know, I just find, and they just need to really edit their stuff before they start making these movies.
I agree. I think this is good news because they're going to be focusing more on quality over quantity, which is what people want.
Perhaps. I mean, there was a lot of things made under him that weren't the greatest. So,
under Kevin Feige?
No, under the
Iger.
previous Bob. Yeah, I don't know. They just need to really look at some of these things and look at how they're treating things and just have better editors. Seems like.
Editing only does so much, but I think I understand your point.
Editors of the story.
I mean, that's the way they do it. Whenever Marvel schedules a production, they schedule in reshoots. Because when they're doing post-production and editing it after the initial production, they look at it and they'll be like, this doesn't work, and they come up with ideas, and then they do that in the reshoots. But you need to have good creative people working on it. And if all those if people are so stretched thin, then you end up, and they can't contribute to it because they're working on multiple projects, then the quality will go down. So I think this is good news.
People that left also under the previous Bob Chapek.
Yeah,
like Kathleen Kennedy left, and I'm sure there was others that left.
She's still there, but she's on her way out.
Yeah, well, she's probably frustrated, I'm assuming.
Maybe, but there's a lot of Star Wars fans that are glad that she's leaving, so I don't want to weigh in on that. What do you think about this news, about these change up at Disney? This is a good article in the Hollywood Reporter. It goes on to talk more about Star Wars and Pixar studios as well, which are both under Disney. So I think it's good news. What do you guys think? Leave us a comment down below. We'll read it out on the next episode. So that's it for our news. So let's jump into our reviews. New this week was Star Trek Picard Season 3. Just one episode was released?
Yes.
I haven't seen it, but Christine did. What did you think of it?
Yes.
Let's do non-spoilers.
I watched the entire series with enthusiasm. So I'll just give a brief synopsis of what they've been about. Season 1 was about, basically there was a problem with doing a show about Picard because in the Next Generation we learn that he has a disease and it's non-curable, and so Picard is going to die. So Season 1 fixed that problem. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
And he's kind of an outcast in Season 1. Season 2 he gets kind of back in a bit and he has a crew and they solve a problem, and the problem is Q, of course, but he turns out not to be too much of a problem. And now this season seems to be a real reuniting of the cast. This episode was called The Next Generation, and it does appear to be having most of the cast in it. Previously we've seen Will Wheaton in it. We've seen Data a lot, not necessarily playing himself, but playing his forefathers, I guess we'll say. And we've had
the guy who made Data, and
yes,
his brother,
Soong.
Dr. Soong.
He's been
in
there.
I can't believe I remember that.
Well, because Data died in the previous movies and stuff like that, and we've had Riker and Troy. So now, though, we're getting everybody, seems like, is coming back. So everyone that hasn't been on it is going to be in it. I don't think Troy is in this one, and I don't know if Will Wheaton is in it.
Deanna Troy?
Yes, she was in the previous seasons, but I think now we're getting everybody that hasn't been in it yet. It's coming back. And it starts out, this one starts out with the Dr. Gates McFadden is in it, and they're going on a mission with the Next Generation. So anyway, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the show. I think that it's had something special to it. All the seasons, I don't know, some other people you didn't care for, but I really enjoyed it. I thought that it's been a really good show.
Oh, I tapped out after the first episode. I watched this and I'm just, this is dumb and terrible writing, and I tapped out immediately.
I liked it. I think it's just, we've had a lot of Star Trek properties recently, and I haven't cared for most of them, but I did like this show. Anyway, so I'm excited to see what happens in this next season. It's a whole different. Oh yes, we also had a returning character of the Borg Queen and Seven of Nine.
Yeah.
Those are the other two.
So I knew Jerry Ryan, who's 7 of 9, was in this show from the beginning.
She's in it this season.
But from what I've heard from podcasts and YouTube shows and other pundits and news reports is that this third season of Picard is essentially a continuation of Star Trek Next Generation because they bring back the whole crew.
It's called the final season. So this is it.
For Picard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's essentially a continuation of Star Trek Next Generation. Now, you mentioned Q. He was only in the first season?
He was in the last season.
He was in season 2 as well?
There's a spoiler. Yeah, season 2.
Okay, I don't need you to spoil it,
I won't spoil it.
This guy, John Delancey,
he's been in everything.
He's quite old.
Well, yeah, they're all getting up there. I mean, this is the thing. Before we had the original cast, the original series generation, and most of them are passed away now. They started making movies, and then as they went along, they lost some members, right?
Yeah.
Now we only have a few left of the originals.
The original crew that's from the 60s.
But this is also probably going to happen at some. These guys are getting older.
Yeah.
You know?
John Delancey is going to be 75 next month.
Yes.
Jeez. He's still kicking.
He's still
good
kicking.
for him.
Anyway, he played Q in the previous season. He probably will not be in this season. And Patrick Stewart, I don't know how old he is, but he's no spring chicken. He keeps on working all the time.
That guy's living forever.
I don't know how old is Patrick Stewart.
You want me to
reveal his age, although at some point it becomes a proud moment to say how old you are. That's a certain point.
I think he's at that point there.
Well, they have to be, everyone
he's 82.
Yeah, I figured he was about that age.
Jeez.
Yeah. So he's, they've only got so many years left in them. Although William Shatner is going into space and doing everything, so he could be in all of these movies if he wanted to.
Shatner's hanging out with Jeff Bezos going into space, because he's using Jeff Bezos's dick rocket to go into space. Which I didn't make that up. Look it up.
If Shatner has any kind of indication, maybe they'll all just live forever. Maybe we'll keep on getting more shows.
Maybe, because in terms of Star Trek people that we lost DeForest Kelley, who was Dr. McCoy in the original. Yes. We lost Leonard Nimoy, who was the original Spock. We lost
Scotty. And
James Doohan, who was Scotty.
Nichols.
She died
passed,
recently.
yes.
Michelle Nichols was Aurora.
We still have George Takei and Shatner, and I think Chekhov's still.
Yeah, I believe he's still around. What was his name again?
So anyway, the cast, they can't live forever.
Walter Knight.
Yeah, he's still out there.
He's still around.
George Takei is hilarious on social media sometimes.
He's on Twitter all the time. You should have seen when Trump was in power. He was on there all the time trashing him.
He's great on Twitter. Although I haven't seen any of his stuff recently.
If you're on Twitter, follow George Takei because he's great.
He has great stuff on there.
Okay, so
anyway,
did you enjoy this first episode of Picard?
I did, and it's just getting started.
Okay.
So we also have a new character, a new captain. And this captain is not like the cast that we have seen. All the cast captains that we have seen in Star Trek, now this has allowed them to write more stories, have been not that straight-laced, we will say. Okay. They're all loosey-goosey.
We gotta move on.
Well, anyway, this new captain is very straight-laced. So we will see where that goes.
Okay.
So, because most of the captains have not been, and that's what leads these great stories.
But overall, you're enjoying the show.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so anyone else checking out Star Trek Picard out there? Season 3? Did you watch 1 and 2? I'm not into it, but I'm not a huge Star Trek fan. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. We'll read it out on our next episode. So continuing with our Star Trek theme, I mentioned in our last episode, but now I'm going to do a review. I watched my 4K copy of Star Trek Beyond from 2016. Now, I hadn't seen this movie since it first came out in the theater in 2016. I believe we saw it together.
Yes.
I remember enjoying it, but I don't think I've seen it since then. It was fun, but it wasn't a movie that I ever went back to. If this wasn't a Star Trek film, I probably would never have watched this again. But because it's part of the franchise, and we recently watched the other 2 of the JJ crew, I watched this. It was this is not one of the better Star Trek movies. It's made by Justin Lin, who did a bunch of Fast and Furious movies, including the last one when they drove the Fiero into space.
Oh.
The cinematography, the way it's shot, I'm like, this isn't a Star Trek movie. I mean, it's very different. I mean, the way J.J. Abrams shot his two movies was very different. You had all the lens flares, and everyone's running down the hallways all the time.
Lens flares.
None of that stuff bothered.
A lot of excitement.
None of that stuff bothered me, but this was just weird angles.
But in this one, don't they just crash? Isn't that what it's mostly about?
Yeah, we're spoiling this because it's from 2016.
I'm trying to remember. They're not in space. They crash.
No, it starts out, they're on their mission, and they're way out exploring deep space. So it starts out they're bored and they're like, oh, you know, because you're stuck on this ship, right? You can't go anywhere, and you only have the people on the ship to interact with, right? So there's a lot of relationships, there's rumors, there's all kinds of crap, right?
There's a holodeck, but it's very dangerous.
No, there's no holodeck at this time.
Oh yeah, this one doesn't have
Also, if there was a holodeck, they'd have to be dealing with evil holodeck creatures all the time, right?
Well, the holodeck is just not a good idea. It's just so dangerous.
Yeah, guys, good thing we got rid of those holodeck creatures gone amok. I'm gonna go relax. I'll be in the holodeck, guys.
Yeah.
So in this one, it starts out there in deep space. Then they go to a space station, which looks beautiful and has an amazing design. I really enjoyed that. And Kirk's like, I'm sick of this. You know, I don't want to do this. And he wants to become an admiral, right? So he's applying for this. And there's the lady from with that really deep voice. She was in one of your shows that you really liked recently. I can't remember her name.
Rebecca Romijn?
No.
Who's in it? I don't know who's. I don't remember who's in it.
No, it's an Indian lady.
With a deep
I'll
voice.
look it up in a minute here. But so they get this. The whole plot, it doesn't make any sense, right? So they get this. There's a rescue, and then these people are like, you gotta go save these people. Well, the Enterprise is here on the space station, so they're the only ship that can go and do this, right?
Oh, of course.
And then they get attacked, and it's a trap. Okay?
Yeah.
And the Enterprise is destroyed. I guess they just want to get rid of it, and that's like, so most of the movie doesn't have the Enterprise in it.
Yeah,
they're stuck on this planet, and it's got this lady in it who
most of the things I remember about it are Mr. Scott and this alien lady.
Yeah,
those are the two things that come to mind.
And the alien lady was played by the lady who was in The Mummy, Sophia Boutella. Man, she was in some bad roles there.
Oh, well, she got to play an alien lady, and Mr. Scott is helping her out or something. Is that not?
Is this her name?
I don't
Sori Agadashlu.
Oh, yes.
She's got this really deep, frothy voice. So she's the Commodore. She's the Commodore that Kirk is
really good as a bossy lady.
Oh, man, she's got this really distinctive voice. She's great. And what was the show she was in recently you were watching? There we go. So
she's like one of the main characters.
They crash on this planet. I found a lot of the plot didn't make any sense. The dialogue was not good, and it was shot in a way that they're trying to make Star Trek appeal to a different audience, which is pissing off the original audience, which is exactly what they did with Discovery, and I tapped out of that show because it was god-awful.
Discovery is god-awful.
The villain is Idris Elba, and he does a good job, except they cover him in all this makeup for most of it. But the interesting thing about this villain is that, sorry kid, there's some noise outside. We can't control that. Hopefully that's not coming through on the video. There's an interesting premise for this villain because he's a guy he's a warrior. He's a starship captain, and he was around at the creation of the Federation, the United Federation of Planets. But they were fighting wars, right? So he's a warrior, he's a veteran warrior, and now they create, I don't know if it was with the Klingons, but now they create the Federation, and then suddenly they're just like, well, what do we do with this guy? He's a veteran, he's a decorated warrior. So we put him in charge of this ship, but now he can't adjust to peacetime. And so now it's like 100 years later, and somehow they've survived using this alien technology on this weird planet. And he wants revenge against the Federation because he blames them because they got marooned there, and he blames the Federation for not coming and rescuing them. So it's an interesting premise of what do you do when you transition from wartime to peacetime, and some people can't make that change. So that was an interesting premise, but overall, I don't think this was a very good Star Trek movie. Now, some people really love it, but for me, I would give this a worst movie ever.
I don't remember it that much. I mean, I think it was a fun time, but the most thing I do remember is I liked Mr. Scott in it. But I find that
Simon Pegg's always great.
Because I find that these new movies with this new cast, it's just missing a spark. He's the only one that seems to have it. I just found it's really missing something that the original.
All three?
Yeah, I do.
Star Trek from 2009, Into Darkness, and Star Trek Beyond.
I enjoy them, but there's something missing, and I think Mr. Scott is the only one that has it.
I don't know.
Little alien. I don't know, because it's missing the geekiness. A lot of it too. It's missing some charm. They're missing something, and I can't. I think it's like they're missing the geekiness.
Yes, you're missing your charm.
And those things.
Chris
I can't
Pine.
put my finger
I really
on
enjoy Chris Pine as Kirk. It's a different Kirk, but I enjoy it. Carl Urban as Bones is great, especially in the first one. He was hilarious. John Cho is great as Sulu. He's the guy, because he gets put in charge of the Enterprise all the time, because Kirk's always off on a mission. He's like, I'll just leave my ship to someone else. So Sulu is like, don't mess with me. And John Cho does a great job of that. Excellent. Zoe Saldana, we don't get to see that much of her. Simon Pegg, amazing. I mean, when is Simon Pegg not amazing?
Yeah.
Anton Yelchin is barely, as I believe he died during production. And there's two things near the end of the movie that are great tributes to him. I can spoil it. So at the end, there's a party, and they're all celebrating, and you can tell they digitally put him in there, and it's like, and they even say in it, it's like two friends lost, right? And then they show Chekhov. Because Anton Yelchin was gone, unfortunately, he died. And then at the very end of the movie, at the end of the credits, it's like for Anton, that's classy. That's a nice touch.
I think
that they dedicated it to him.
These movies are more just like, they're more like a generic Marvel movie. I think they're just missing that something that other shows do have that doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, they're trying to make it there. I hope they make more, because eventually, if they keep making more, we're going to get some bad ones, but we're going to get some good ones too. So we had JJ do 2 of them. Second one wasn't so great, but the first one was pretty good. And then we got this one, Star Trek Beyond. This is the worst one for me. But I still watched it. It did have some fun moments in it. And at the end of the day, I still give it a worst movie ever. So, what are your thoughts on the Star Trek Beyond? Do you like the JJ crew? Do you want to see them come back and do more? Paramount did announce it a couple of years ago that they were going to do more. But they didn't tell the cast before they made the announcement. Not a good idea.
I do love getting the content and being excited for it, but I just have felt a little let down over all of them. Yeah,
I can't argue with that. You guys fans of Star Trek Beyond or the new Star Trek movies? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. What are we going to talk about next? We're going to stay in space. We're going to talk about, we watched classic movie Event Horizon from 1997, starring Sam Neill, Lawrence Fishburne, and what's his name? Jason Isaacs, I believe it is.
Jason Isaacs is in it.
Okay. There's a bunch of other people in it too. Kathleen Quinlan.
Yep.
Jolie Richardson. If you haven't seen this movie, this isn't like one of the all-time horror movies, but I think it's really good, and I enjoy it. It's a scary movie in space. It's essentially about a ghost ship. We can spoil this because it's over 20 years old now.
Yeah.
It's like 26 years old now.
I did see it when it first came out, and I did enjoy it, and I hadn't seen it since.
I didn't see it in the theaters, but I did see it back in the day, back in the late 90s, and I enjoyed it. I mean, Sam Neill, okay? He's great in it. Lawrence Fishburne, this is pre The Matrix.
Yeah.
Everyone is so young in this.
Young.
Yeah,
they look
so
young.
The premise.
Although Jason Isaacs looks about the same.
I'll give you the premise of this. There's an experimental ship, and then it's lost, and then suddenly it's found now. By the way, the dates are completely off. Apparently, we have already been on the moon and on Mars, according to this movie.
We need to add another 100 years onto that.
And they find this ship, so they go to recover it, and Sam Neill's there because he's the guy who's in charge of building it. It had this special engine, which is essentially like it's like a hyperdrive engine. Okay, so they go into hyperspace, they go into a different dimension in order to travel through space
they're
faster.
They're basically folding space and going right through. That's basically what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, by going through a different dimension. The problem is they find this ship and it's empty and it's a ghost ship. So and things start going wrong. And the reason why I really enjoy this movie is it's like some classic scary movies where there's things going on and it's weird, but it's always like just off camera. You just can't quite see it. It reminds me of The Shining, because when you're watching The Shining, stuff is going on, but you can't. They don't show it to you. You just know weird stuff is going on. You see these weird visions, so it's really tense. And then these things happening, and you're like, "Who's doing this? Is someone doing this?
Yeah.
Is there a monster on the ship? Is something going on? Is it one of the people? Is like what's going on?"
Yeah.
And it's not even that long, I don't think. How long is this? 95 minutes. Now that's how you make a movie.
Yeah, no, it's really great, and the suspense is really great. And basically what happens is that the ship did work, and it did travel, and it took something back with it.
Yeah.
But the thing that it brought back with it is very...
Maybe let's not spoil it.
We still don't really know what it is that it took back with it, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's the premise of the movie. We're not gonna spoil it. However, I would recommend checking this out from 1997. If you haven't watched it before, check it out. Tell us if it still holds up, or maybe you have seen it. What are your thoughts on it? Leave a comment down below. We think it's really good.
I think it's really good. And it had me scared, and I couldn't remember exactly. I knew kind of the basics of what happened, and to watch it again, I was still scared. And it's just so creepy. Yeah. And the space is just so cold and dark.
This is a good scary movie. I recommend it. Let us know your thoughts on Event Horizon from 1997. I definitely recommend checking out. But if you didn't like it, let us know and why. We want to hear from you as well. Moving on, we're still in space. We got Star Wars The Bad Batch, Season 2, Episode 9.
Right.
This was called The Crossing. I'll let you start on this one. What did you think of this episode?
I did like this episode. I did enjoy it. It does move the plot forward a tiny bit. It basically, to me, it showed how alone they are and how precarious their position is.
This was a bleak episode for The Bad Batch.
And how, you know, basically they could have been trapped where they were and no one would ever know.
Yeah, because they're out in the middle of nowhere.
No one really cares, and the boss doesn't care. And even within the group, there are ways of looking at, some are still looking at like it's a mission, everyone's a mission, and others are looking at it like a family. It's the views are different.
Well, all the members of the Bad Batch, like the original members there, they look at it as a mission because that's how they were brought up. That's how they were trained and indoctrinated to think about everything. Because they're clones.
Not all of them, I don't think. Yeah.
There was some good character development for Omega in this. So her view of it, and remember, she's a child, so she's going to have a completely different view of this compared to soldiers.
She's actually older than them, though.
And as we've seen from the previous episode, they don't have Echo anymore. He's gone off on a different mission. He's not dead or anything.
It's like losing her brother, and she's upset about it, and she doesn't understand why they're not as upset.
So this has a lot to do with family, and it's a lot of character development with her, and also learning to deal with change. Which is important. And they also still don't have Crosshair. We haven't seen him forever.
No, it also shows like how they really are all children as well. Because they really are all young, even though they don't look it. Because they have accelerated aging. Yep. And how they're like going to like drill into this thing and can blow up. And they are like children a bit, you know? The
one thing, I don't like it when they're doing stories, and it's not necessarily in Star Wars, it could be anything, where they're tearing down the hero or heroes, and they're like stripping everything away from them, and things get really bleak. It's that old saying that doesn't make any sense. It's the night is always darkest before the dawn. That's not true at all. The night is darkest in the middle of the night. But things have to get really dark, and heroes have to be at their lowest before we bring them back. And it always kind of brings me down. I'm not exactly... You know, I don't want to see the heroes being pummeled all the time. Well, unless they lose, but
they won in this episode. They did win.
Sort of.
They're safe.
I guess.
And they got a lot of price.
They got a lot of work to do to get back to where they were at the beginning of this episode, they lost a lot. They lost something really big this episode. I'm not going to mention what it is.
But I mean, yeah, it just really shows how alone they are, and they're out there all by themselves.
Yeah, they got no support because they're all outlaws,
and
essentially.
I think maybe because they fugitives. Are children, they're not really seeing that far ahead. They're just seeing it as mission by mission.
Did you enjoy this episode?
I did.
I still enjoyed it as well. It's not the best one from the season, but man, this show is great. It's going to be a while before we get another Star Wars movie. You mentioned earlier that the last one was 4 years ago, which was Rise of Skywalker, which don't get me started on that. I don't like that movie, but that's just me.
That's why when you were reading that article, I hope they continue with this show. Anyway, we'll see.
I'm going to continue with my recommendation that if you're looking for good Star Wars or you want to learn more about Star Wars, get into the animation, because the animation is where it's at. Like this show, The Bad Batch, Season 1 and Season 2, it's great. Even the couple of filler episodes that we have, overall, this show's amazing. I love it. Do you have any final thoughts on The Bad Batch?
No, I'm just interested to know where they're going to end up.
Yeah, me too. Well, it's episode 9, and I believe there's 16 episodes, so we still have 7 episodes to go.
That's good.
And we're getting The Mandalorian in like a week.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to have 2 Star Wars shows to watch every week. That's awesome.
Right. Now, The Mandalorian, he is all by himself with the baby Yoda, but you don't worry.
And he has lots of friends. Yeah. He's got friends everywhere he goes.
He's able to do whatever.
And then when he doesn't have them, he just calls on his Mandalorian buddies, and they all show up. We saw that in the teaser.
He's a real superhero.
But in The Bad Batch, it's Pedro Pascal. Okay? But we're not talking about that. We're talking about The Bad Batch. It's a great show. Anyone else out there watching it, let us know your thoughts on Star Wars The Bad Batch. We love it. Maybe I like it more than you. I don't know. But
I like it.
We're definitely enjoying it. Let us hear your thoughts, please. What else do we got? You saw a movie today. Let's jump to that. What did you see today, dear?
I got to see a movie. Well, I got to see Women Talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I really had no idea what it was about, other than it was about women talking about things, and I thought it was maybe in the 1800s or something. I wasn't sure. I didn't know anything about it other than Sarah Polley. It's her movie.
I thought it was in the 19th century.
No, it's not.
When is it? When does it take place?
It could be today.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure. It doesn't... I'm not really sure when it is.
I'll take your word. I didn't see it. You did.
It's... Well... if you want it, I totally recommend watching it. I'm going to do some spoilers here in order to explain what it's about.
It's an awards movie. It came out last year. Go ahead and spoil it.
Okay.
Spoilers, everyone.
What it's about is it's about a colony, like a really strict religious colony, like a Hutterite colony, or not a Mennonite colony, but like a Hutterite or something like that. And they're all isolated, and the women in this colony, it's not like normal colonies that we'd be aware of. Mm-hmm. It's almost like a cult colony, and the women are not educated, and they don't know anything. They're not allowed to go to school. They don't even know where they are on the map. They have no idea. All they know is the colony where they live.
The movie info says, in 2010, the women of an isolated religious community grapple with reconciling brutal reality of their faith. So this is 13 years ago.
It's like in the modern times.
But they're in an isolated religious community.
Yeah, you can tell by their building materials.
Do they have phones?
Oh gosh, no. This is a real colony.
So they're like Amish.
Yeah, but it's not Amish. No, that would be insulting to Amish. This is like a separate religious type of thing. It's a based on God religion, but it's the problem. This is the problem. It's their own religion that they've created. And in this religion, it's a bit like the Taliban. Ooh. It's like the Taliban meets the Hutterites.
So women have no rights.
And
women don't go to school, that kind of stuff.
And like as they explain in the movie, men won't even open a curtain. They won't do anything.
They're lazy.
Won't pass the salt or nothing. Yeah.
They make the women do everything.
The women do everything, and they're very capable.
So the women are in servitude in this weird cult community.
Yeah.
Sounds terrible.
The weird thing is that they, number one, tell them that if they... Basically, it's an awful thing that happens. Basically, for years and years and years, the men have been drugging... Well, some of the men have been drugging the women with cow tranquilizer. and they've been abusing them at night. And
Because
so they
tranquilizing them. Okay,
they describe it as hovering over their bodies, but they don't even know what their parts of their bodies are called. They can't even describe what's happened to them because in their language and they don't even know. Like, they don't know what sex is or anything. They can't use that word.
What language are they speaking?
They speak English, but women have not been taught anything. Okay? But these women are very smart.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so basically the men have been coming into their rooms and abusing them even when they're young, and they all get pregnant with having babies. They don't know who really is the father. The men have been beating the women as well.
Sounds
it's been
terrible.
And they have to all account to the elders, who are the elderly men, and they teach the boys to do this. So it's an awful situation.
And they made a movie about this?
Yes.
Wow, that's
but the movie's not
terrible.
about that. The movie starts. It basically says it's basically starts with the end. It starts with it happening and one of the men getting caught.
Mm-hmm.
Because the women were told they were hallucinating, or it was ghosts, or it was the devil, or it was in their own mind that this was happening. Because they were tranquilized all the time. They didn't really know. They knew something bad was happening, but they couldn't really say. And they told them that it was against God to say that they would never think it was men. But then one of the men got caught.
Okay.
And they identified him, and he said who all the others that were doing it.
Which is everyone.
Not everyone, but a lot of them. So basically, the cops from the community came in and they penned them all up, and they arrested them all and took them to town.
Mm-hmm.
So now the rest of the men, other than one, have now gone to town to bail out the other men. And they have 2 days to decide what they're going to do.
These cops, are they part of this religious community,
No,
or are
no.
they regular cops?
Regular cops
Gotcha.
have come to arrest. They called them in somehow. We don't see that part. All we see is the men penned up in like animals in a corral. So the men have been taken. The rest of the men went to bail them out in town.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gone for a couple of days. So all that's left is the women, the children, the boys, young boys as well, and one man, the teacher, are left there. And the women have to make a decision. So they vote. Are they going to stay and leave, pretend like nothing happened? Are they going to fight? Or are they going to leave? So they get to vote. So they all put an X. None of them can read or write. So they all put an X underneath the pictures of what they want to do. And of course, there's a tie. There's a tie between staying and fighting or leaving. That's the tie. So they've assigned 3 families to decide for everyone.
Do the women get to vote in this?
It's the women that are doing this. The men are all gone.
Okay.
The women have come up with this. Do they stay? Do they fight? Do they leave? So these are the 3 choices. So it was sort of tied between fighting or leaving, but yet still there's other people in there. So these 3 groups of women have to discuss it, what they want to do. And the teacher stays behind. Now the teacher is the only man basically in the thing. And he had left for many years and went to university. He came back, but his mother had killed herself because of this problem. Because she tried to speak out against it, and then no one would stand with her, and she killed herself.
This sounds depressing.
So it's definitely not. It's a serious movie.
Yeah,
anyway,
this is one of those awards movies.
No, it's
and
a good movie.
no, this came out at the end of last year, and
I
it's
don't
one
care.
of the awards movies. I chose not to go see this because all the other awards movies that came out that I've seen, I didn't enjoy them at all. So I said, I'm not going to go watch this. And based on what you're telling me, I don't want to watch something like this about women being tranquilized and date raped and then having this weird cult community.
That's not part of it. It's about the women talking about what they want to do. Also,
bad title. And not because it's women talking. I don't want to see a movie titled Men Talking either.
Anyway, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, and it has some great acting in it. I thought it was really terrific because I think all women can relate to this depending on their situation.
And Claire Foy's in this.
Yeah, she's in it. Frances McDormand is in it a little bit. She actually plays a character who wants to stay, and she gets out of it. She leaves. Yeah, it's really good. They're really good. Sheila McCarthy is in it. She was with Sarah Polley when they did Road to Avonlea. She's in it. She has the only comedic parts in it about her horses. It's funny. Anyway, so yeah, in the end, they leave. They pack up everything, and they don't even take the teacher with them, even though he's in love with one of the women. She leaves them. They all leave.
All the women leave.
All the women.
And they go live in regular society.
We don't know where they go. They all leave.
Yeah, credits, we're leaving.
With everything. But the discussion about it is something else. It's about forgiveness. It's about, first they think if they leave that, basically they're testing facts out. It's like a fact tester. Like, if we leave, will we not go to heaven? This is because they're told that if they don't forgive the men, they won't go to heaven. But they get over that hurdle. Like, it's all hurdles in the discussion, basically. And one of them, she just wants to kill them all. She already tried.
Vengeance.
And the sheriff had to pull her back. Yeah, she wants to kill them all. So there, in the end, she basically leaves because they're like, we don't want you to stay and be a murderer, so you should come with us. So it's all a debate. It's like Plato or something. This is a whole big debate over all these different issues. Anyway, I really enjoyed it.
Okay, we're running a little bit late. What kind of rating would you give it? Best movie or worst movie ever?
I don't do that rating. I'd say I give it a 93. I really liked it.
93. Okay.
It only takes place in one little place in a couple little rooms. Yeah.
I tried to look up what the budget is for this movie.
Not much.
And I'm getting conflicting reports. I don't know. It has some big names in it. It says, according to BoxOfficeMojo.com, it said it made $4.5 million worldwide. So this really didn't make any money. I don't know what the budget is.
It was filmed, it looks like, on a farm in Ontario, I'm assuming.
This, based on what you told me, I'm glad I didn't go see it. So thank you. I appreciate that. Christine really liked it, so it spoke to her because about women standing up, which is a good thing. However, I don't want to see a movie about women being subjugated. Well,
I saw my own story reflected in it, and I think a lot of women could as well.
No,
basically, yeah, and I love it in the end because we always see these movies with the couple that has to be together, but no, she leaves for her own benefit and for her child's benefit. Freak them in.
That's what Christine thinks on Women Talking, which came out at the end of last year. What do you guys think on this movie, Women Talking? Let us know down in the comments below. Did anyone else see this? I don't think many people have seen it because they ain't making any money.
I totally recommend it. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Well, you just spoiled it for everyone, so they don't have to go see it.
I didn't really say what happened because you have to watch it. It's really, there's a lot of debate.
We have some other stuff to review, but we'll save that for the next episode because we're running a little bit long. However, I did forget one thing. Event Horizon, I think the best movie ever. It's definitely worth watching if you like scary movies. What would you say Event Horizon is?
Oh yeah, that's a really good one.
Best movie ever?
Oh, yes, for sure.
There you go. I got her to say best movie ever.
That's like a 90%, that one.
Okay, so we're going to wrap things up here. I don't think we have any comments. We did get some more subscribers.
Ooh, welcome.
So we always need more subscribers. Thank you to anyone who's watching this, and if you enjoy it, please like the video. That would help us out. You want to leave a comment, that helps us out. You can always subscribe. All these things would help us out. How can people get in touch with us, Christine?
Well, they can email us at CanadaMovieTVHosers@gmail.com. And if you'd like to suggest any topics for us or anything you want us to talk about on the show, you can also find our new videos, information about them at Twitter, at CanadaHosers. Gregory will post them up every time he puts a new video on there. And you can follow Gregory at St. John's Critic. And if you want us to notice about your tweet on Twitter, you can use the hashtag CanadaHosers. And we encourage you to like and subscribe.
Excellent. So, from all three of us here, including Sleepy Kitty here, we're going to sign off now. Take care, everyone. Bye. Bye.